We're talking money today.
Make it rain.
Woo!
Do you think people enjoy talking about money or they don't enjoy talking about money?
I think people enjoy talking about money. They don't enjoy talking about their money habits.
So many people that I talk to that I'm about to or we're about to have financial conversations with oftentimes say things like, wait until I get my stuff together before I meet with you, because that conversation makes them uncomfortable.
You could end up doing something that you perceive to be passive that is not passive to me.
Passive income means and Kabir, you said this earlier, you've set up a system that allows that money to flow in after you've done the work and set up that system.
100% passive, no activity, no energy out. Everybody should pretty much just remove that from your vocabulary and from your realm of possibilities, because I haven't seen it.
After you've paid all your bills and done everything in the month, how much is left over? It's supposed to be left over. Not after like the miscellaneous stuff, but like just to keep the household running. How much is left over?
How many decades have people been trying to gamble with the lottery only to come out with nothing? Just a whole lot of spent money on lottery tickets.
Not all debt is bad debt, but consumer debt is the worst debt.
Even if you are talking about a massive stock portfolio that you put together, you're still going to have to check in once, twice, a quarter with your financial advisor. So there's some amount of small energy that's still going to be going into it.
Get you a door, you get you 2 doors, and you and your family eating, you out in the boat in Jamaica, and good Lord, the rent coming in, right? So it's not like that.
When you hear about people making it in crypto or all these other types of things overnight, you have to recognize that they're like 1 out of 1 million, 1 out of 10 million. It's very, very rare.
Because at the end of the day, we all deal with money. We all deal with it. We all have a question about it. We all have a concern about it. We all have something we want to do with it, someplace we want to go. We all deal with money. But we have to start having more conversations about it, regardless of how you feel.
Welcome to the Good Life.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Good Life Visual Audio Podcast. I got Stu here with us. Say what's up, Stu.
What's up, y'all?
Kabir is in the building. Say hey.
What up, dope?
And as always, I'm Chris, guys. Hey, we're diving into, again, how to design your life with extraordinary health, wealth, and mindset. As always, find us everywhere that you listen or watch, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere. Press a like button, share it with somebody, because as always, we're giving you value. We got some really, really good stuff to talk about today to help you get to the good life.
We're doing it well.
That's right. And it happens to be my week, I guess. Right? We're talking money today.
Make it rain.
Woo!
Talking money. Everybody loves talking money, or maybe they don't. Let's start with that question, gentlemen. I'm in a questioning mode today, so you're probably gonna get a lot of questions out of me. But do you think people enjoy talking about money, or they don't enjoy talking about money? What do you think?
Listen, take that right off the top. I'm gonna go negative Nancy on you. I'm gonna go negative Nancy real quick. I think people enjoy talking about money. They don't enjoy talking about their money habits.
Oh shit!
Oh.
Getting deep already.
Let it drop.
Fire right in the way. Fire right off the bat. Right, just it's coming. So
that's what you get when you get me on that go-go juice.
He's on the juice. Stu, what do you think?
In general, no, because I think a lot of people are in employment situations they don't want to be in. They don't have control over changing their income until once a year they get a conversation of a performance review. What I do love about South Florida, that percentage is a lot higher. There's a lot of money talks running around Las Olas.
That's right. And it's really,
we gotta always shoddy love.
Hey Lee.
Bring it back. Bring it back.
Hey. Dropping it.
That's on Instagram for all of y'all who are hearing this on the recording. Hop in Instagram if you want to see the backstage. But we're gonna keep this in the recording too, because that's what we do. Keep it fresh.
That's right. Keeping it fresh, making sure though, again, it's a great plug. Everybody that wants to get this behind the scenes, jump on our Instagram. We do this live every Wednesday night. So you might be hearing this on Monday, but live every Wednesday, 8 p.m., 5 p.m. Pacific. So This is the backstage, Haley. Like, you can't get much
Oh,
more
yeah.
backstage than this. Like,
You came to the right spot.
yeah, but it's all good. You came to the right place. So again, money talks. Most people don't like talking about their money habits. 1,000% right could be, but the ones that are in it, that are thinking about it, that are, you know, in the game, they want to have the conversation. They want to have the conversation. You guys know, as a financial professional, I get a chance to lift up the hood under people's financial life all the time, consistently. And a lot of times, in my experience, people do not want to have the proper financial conversation. The proper financial conversation. Some people might want to talk about investments, the 203, the 303. They want to throw out the ideas of what they could be doing, or the grandiose real estate deal that they're thinking about doing. However, when you really get into the mechanics of money, or even the education behind it, or where people might be have some insecurities around money, those things we push away. We don't want to have that conversation necessarily. So many people that I talk to, that I'm about to, or we're about to have financial conversations with, oftentimes say things like, wait until I get my stuff together before I meet with you. Right? Because they're a little bit ashamed. They have some insecurities. They're trying to figure it out themselves before they come open it up and have the conversation with a financial professional, because that conversation makes them uncomfortable. And it's okay. If anybody's listening that might be feeling that a bit of like, I don't really want to talk to somebody about my money, or I don't really know who to talk to, or whatever the case is, because it feels uncomfortable. We have to get rid of that. And I'm one of those people. I try to help make it easy and simple for you to talk about money, because at the end of the day, we all deal with money. We all deal with it. We all have a question about it. We all have a concern about it. We all have something we want to do with it, some place we want to go. We all deal with money, but we have to start having more conversations about it, regardless of how you feel about it. You got to start having more conversations. And in those conversations of talking about money and bringing some things up about money, one of the terms that gets that gets thrown out a lot when you ask people about what they're trying to do or where they're trying to go with money, one of the things that pops up all the time is passive income. I'm looking for passive income. I could probably say 75% of the people that I talk to about money, at some time in us talking, they bring up the words passive income, right? And I think it's worth us having a conversation about what passive income is, what it looks like, what it's not. How do we even get to this place? I wrote an article back a few years back in the end of 2019, going into 2020, that I said 4 words or 4 phrases that we have to take out of our financial vocabulary in 2020, right? Many things happened in 2020 that we had to, right, shift and adjust to. But the 4 words, one of the phrases that I said we have to take out of our vocabulary is passive income. And the reason I said we have to take out passive income is because we're getting confused as a society, as people that are playing in this capitalistic, right, arena. You have to really understand the language behind money and what you're saying. And a lot of times now we're using this word passive income, or this phrase passive income, to mean easy income, income that comes in without me trying, income that comes in without me really having to work for it. I'm just looking for passive income. I've worked my entire life. I've busted my butt at things that I really don't like and I don't want to do. So now I'm at a place where I want the money to come in easier than it has over the past 10, 15, 20 years. And that's not passive income. Passive income is not easy income, right? Passive income means and Kabir, you said this earlier, you've set up a system that allows that money to flow in after you've done the work and set up that system. After you've put in the time, you put in the work, and then said, you know what? I've set all of this up so that now I don't have to do that same work, but money can still flow in. That's passive income. But we can't get away from the work. Can't get away from the work part. but I think the term has been misused and misconstrued a lot in society. And gentlemen, I'm curious to hear from you two about your definition of passive income and or what you've heard as what passive income actually is. You know, and it could be
I
you could
think you've
jump
done
in.
a great job of breaking it down so far, and I totally agree. Even in my mind, for a long time, passive meant I don't have to do nothing, and I'm getting this mailbox money. But the thing is, I got that idea from people I'm seeing that have written books or doing commercials or doing all types of stuff. And what I realized they failed to really disclose is that they're getting that mailbox money because one, they took a large risk at some point in time, and two, they've set up systems that are now giving them that mailbox money. So whether they took risk to build a business, which is risky, or they took risk to purchase real estate, which requires risk and capital, as does business does, as does starting a business in general, or they somehow acquired money and are lending it out and taking risk on that to get that quote unquote passive income. Um, I've listened to a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people that have money, and what I'm, now hearing and I agree with is that everything starts out active and then it becomes passive. So setting out that, so for me, my definition of passive income is I have something that I have built, whether I put energy into it to build it, blood, sweat, and tears, whether I put capital into it to build it, whether I put time into it to build it, plus blood, sweat, and tears, if we're being real, or some combination of all three. And now it's paying me without me continuing to put that stuff in. That means I'm now been a successful entrepreneur and I'm getting that my cut of the profit without having to go in and do it. So I think it's super misleading. But it doesn't have to be misleading to you because you're listening to The Good Life and we got you, baby. Pass
That's
it on,
right.
Stu.
That's right.
I think both of you guys did a really good job breaking it down. For me, my definition of passive income was what is the least amount of effort I can put into something and still get consistent capital coming from it. So I never really viewed it as a absolute zero energy in. I actually don't know anything out there that could even be that way. I mean, even if you are talking about a massive stock portfolio that you put together, you're still going to have to check in once, twice a quarter with your financial advisor. So there's some amount of small energy that's still going to be going into it. So I think the idea of 100% passive, no activity, no energy out, everybody should pretty much just remove that from your vocabulary, from your realm of possibilities, because I haven't seen it.
Take it out.
Just take it right out. And but no matter what, and both of you guys touched on this, there has to be some type of significant energy put into that thing in order for you to get to this point of very little maintenance. And could be broken down real well. Time, money, just building a business, creating systems, like all of these things take a massive amount of time to get to. And I think we were having a nice chat about this prior to us going live today. Depending on the industry, you can get there a lot faster than others. So I think getting really clear on what industry, what would that look like? It's you have to map it out well. And Chris, you made a great point earlier about how, if it was really that easy to get passive income, everybody would be doing it. And I'm probably here to tell you guys that I don't think passive income can exist for every single person on the planet. So you got to do something differently than what other people are doing.
I want to add something real quick and then request that we backpedal the conversation before we shoot it forward like a rocket. So I want to add that, that if you could end up doing something that you perceive to be passive that is not passive to me, right? So maybe for you, making phone calls to people you don't know is light work for you. It's so light work, you think it's passive. right? For me, that ain't passive. As somebody who had a career making cold calls, right? But maybe that's really easy for you. So I think this all goes back to our age-old advice of pick something that you are good at, something you enjoy doing, and something you can get paid for, and it could feel passive, right? But we know obviously you're still putting energy into it. So I think I want to highlight that point in time, and that kind of piggybacks Stu off off what you said about picking about the industry. Right. For some folks, if you've ever read Prosper's Coach, it basically describes what feels like a passive business. But at some point in time, you really had to put in energy to build that network of network of people to give you referrals. Where now the person is sitting there getting referrals all day, and it's like, oh well, that looks fairly passive. Yeah, but you missed the underground work, right? And then, guys, before we dive further into midterm investments, I would like, maybe Chris, if you could do this, kind of summarize what the steps before getting to midterm investments. I think that's very important, and we don't want to skip that. Even if it's just as a quick 1, 2, 3, these are the things you have in place before you get there. I think it's very critical to the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you for that, man. I'll definitely go there. Stu, I saw you put some thumbs down to the book, though.
That book is very controversial to me. I learned a lot from it. I was recommended to it by the people I got certified from. There is there's so much to be learned about how a lot of coaches don't understand how to get off the ground running. And this really kind of goes contradictory to what you and I and Kabi were talking about beforehand. You do have to get out there and somehow find a way to let people know you exist and to advocate your product. I think the Prosperous Coach has a couple of sections in there where there's like a bit of a strong arm into you need to work with me. I'm going to press on these buttons. There's some sales diction in there that doesn't resonate with me. But honestly, I would recommend that book to literally anybody. I'm really glad you brought it up because I actually don't recommend it. But now that we're talking about it, like there's a lot to be learned there. You may not have to agree with every piece. You may resonate with it. It may feel in line with who you are and what you want to do. But I like gathering, man. I've never been much of a hunter when it comes to the sensitive things of someone's mind and psychology. It's very easy to get a big ego when it comes to messing around with somebody's mind. And I think, this probably applies a bit more to the life coaching and the mental health side of things. But not every person in every industry is your friend. And that book has a lot of power behind it. And I think it should be used responsibly.
Chris, have you read it?
I have not.
Okay, cool. Maybe we talk about it later after you've read it so we can all give our thoughts.
Yeah.
That'd be sick. That'd be really sick.
And for everybody that's listening, right? Like we say it at the end of our show, right? Good press, bad press, doesn't matter, right? So same thing about this book. Good review, bad review. Stu doesn't recommend it, right? Like Kabi recommends it. Go pick it up, read it. Give us your feedback, right? Send a message to us and let us know, like, hey, I read the book and I agree with Stu, right? Like that she was misleading or whatever the case is. But this is how we start to get new information, process new information, take ownership of our life by reading and listening and hearing these types of things that could potentially benefit your life or show you the things that maybe you don't want to do, or right, however that works out for you. But at the end of the day, reading is paramount, right? Reading Rainbow. Second question: How many of you guys watch Reading Rainbow? Did you watch Reading Rainbow, guys?
I did.
Oh yeah, for sure. Reading Rainbow.
I just happened to see that.
You don't have to take my word for it.
It's a Instagram sound on Reels going around right now that might be trending. The take a look, what's in a book?
Reading Rainbow.
So yes,
yeah,
we need some of that. We need some of that in the good life. But take that step back, like Kabi said, and talking a little bit about the steps leading up to passive income, right? And again, that word passive, just do not want it to be confused with easy. It just falls in my lap. Got to work for it. You just setting up systems, like Kabi said, right? You got to have, some capital, some things that you put in place. But what happens before that point? Before you're thinking about passive income, I go back to the foundations, right? Foundations. I normally look at 5, maybe 6 different things as foundational parts of your financial life that you then have in place so that you can start to build on it. Just like having a house. If you built a house thinking about the roof first and it's built on sand, it's going to fall down. Doesn't matter. And a lot of times, you guys have heard me say this before. We've talked about it a bunch on the show, right? 101, 202, 303 levels. This midterm investment can be a 202 or a 303 type of level. It's not a 101. And here's why it's not a 101. Because 101, first and foremost, cash flow. What comes in, what goes out. Income and expenses. Pretty basic stuff. But most people don't have a handle on it. Do you know how much, for many people, they don't know their discretionary income. Meaning, after you've paid all your bills and done everything in the month, how much is left over? It's supposed to be left over. Not after like the miscellaneous stuff, but like just to keep the household running. How much is left over? That number's got to be pretty high if you want to start thinking about midterm passive investments, right? You got to make sure you have some extra money. So we got to look at the cash flow side. Got to have short-term savings. Such a crucial part, ladies and gentlemen. Such a crucial part. I've seen it happen over and over and over and over. We don't have 6 to 12 months worth of our income set aside labeled emergency. I know some people say 3 months or 6 months, like 3 months on the low end. I think, some people even say a month, right, of emergency fund. Proper 6 to 12 months. If you get to a 6 months of your income set aside, you don't have to even put money in the bank anymore. Don't even worry about it, right? Because you got your cushion. But that is important before you start doing midterm investments. Before we start talking about passive income, we got to have savings. Most importantly, the habit of saving. Okay? So that's the second thing that we got to look at, short-term savings.
Do you think people know why that's so important to have that short-term savings?
I don't think, and that's a great question, Stu. I don't think people know. No, I don't think people understand why it's so important, but I'll explain, right? I'll explain. It's important because long-term, that's what we're building for. If we're even having an investing conversation, ladies and gentlemen, investing by nature is for the long haul. It's long-term, right? You can trade and do things that increase your profits right away, but it's not really what we're talking about when we're investing. Anytime you use that word investing, you're putting something in right now to get a return down the line, right? So it's always going to be future. But what we don't foresee a lot of times are the hiccups of life. The hiccups of life. Job loss, sickness, divorce, bankruptcy, major house bills, right? All types of things that start popping up that dip into our personal finances. Right? Dip into our personal financial life. That 6 months worth of expenses or income, I say income, you'll hear other financial people say expenses, specifically because you know what to do with your income. Your expenses should be way lower than your income, right? So if you only save 3 or 6 months, let's say you save 6 months worth of your expenses, it's not going to last you 6 months. It's going to last you like 4 because you have overhead over top of your expenses that you haven't saved for. So I always say, if you get to 6 months worth of your income, you know what to do with your income. You'll pay expenses and you'll have extra to still go eat dinner and do the things you need to do and not be stressed. The reason why that's important to have there is because inevitably, it happens to all of us, inevitably something's going to happen where you're going to have an emergency and you're going to need to dip into some money. It's going to happen, right? Whether it's job loss, like I said, all those things. If you start investing without having an emergency fund, you will ultimately pull out of your investments. I've seen it happen over and over again. You're going to sell the crypto. Most importantly, you're going to get scared when it goes down because you actually needed the money. So then you're going to be, right, you're going to have to pull out. You're going to, right, lose out on money, the whole nine. I've seen it happen in real estate when people become, right, overly invested and they aren't liquid. And now all of a sudden something happens where they need to be liquid. So they have to sell the house. They have to sell the property. Right. And again, that's a part of the game, but not when you're just getting started out. Like you don't want to go into something knowing that you got to sell it in the next couple of years just to make sure that you can pay rent or pay off this bill or whatever it is. So understanding that long term, you are going to have many financial ups and downs, many setbacks, all these types of things that will happen to you. You've got to make sure you have 6 months worth of your income set aside before you start talking about investing. That's why it's important. That's why it's important, because you won't make it. You'll build your house. Again, this is foundational. You won't build your house when you don't have good foundation. That short-term savings is foundation. If you don't have that, you're always going to be stressed, especially if you're an employee. If you're an employee, meaning you work a job, you have no other streams of income, you just have jobs, and you don't have savings, but you're trying to invest, as soon as one of your jobs goes away, what's the plan? What's the game plan? Now you got to pull out of investments. And you're like, oh, that crypto, oh, that I shouldn't have done that. Now you're back at zero, or you're back where we started. And that's not building wealth. Does that make sense, Stu?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for going in on it.
Absolutely. But either way, cash flow, income and expenses, foundational. Short-term savings, foundational. Consumer debt, credit cards, personal loans, medical bills, things that pile up, right? Where's your debt position? Analyzing that. I'm not a stickler to be like, all debt is bad debt, because wealthy people build with debt. But again, that's a 303 level conversation. We can't
You got to repeat that, bro. You got to repeat that.
Not all. I'm not a stickler for saying that all debt is bad debt, because not all debt is bad debt. Wealthy people build empires on debt. Our country is built on debt. Everything major that has massive amounts of debt. It's just a numbers game. You've been in real estate, could be like, and Stu, I'm sure you get this, right? Like, it's just numbers when you look at investments. It's a matter of, that property, that apartment building is going to cash flow me, it's going to give me a, 12% cash on cash return. You can get 12% from that apartment building every year. I'm going to borrow this money at 3%. So if I borrow money at 3% and I get 12%, that's a positive 9%. If I have $300 million in debt, I'm still good, because the numbers worked out. Because at 300,000, I'm not a genius in math, but like, it's going to cash flow you a good amount, right? More than that debt, right? Carry the zero.
Neither's Trump.
Carry a couple zeros.
Right?
Neither's Trump.
Hey, there's Trump. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Listen, it's how things are built. We just got to pay attention to understanding money, to understanding how it works. So not all debt is bad debt, but consumer debt is the worst debt. You paying money for furniture, credit card stuff, right? Car loans, like liabilities and things.
Would you define? I would define. Let me know if you agree with that. I would define bad debt as debt that doesn't bring you in more money than it takes out.
Correct. That is it. And good debt is the opposite. It brings you in more money.
Preferably a lot more.
Exactly.
Facts.
Exactly. Right.
I think something else when it comes to the conversation of debt and how there's a certain interest on owing money. Well, if you don't have the short-term game locked down and you have to pull out a loan to take care of yourself, now you're really screwing yourself. Now, instead of getting some type of positive interest and growth, you've dug yourself in the other direction.
That's right. That's right.
Definitely bad debt.
It's definitely bad debt. And it goes back to cash flow. If you had to take out a loan for something, like, where's your cash flow at? What's your income and expense? You got extra $500 a month, extra $4,000 a month. Like, what is it? You might have to evaluate that too. Right. So that's why I said, this is all foundational. Most people don't get past this step. They just don't want to talk about this step. Right. They don't want to address this part of it. But this is the foundations to get to 202 midterm investment, passive income. You got to master this part first. You got to have this stuff down so that we can move forward. So,
but Chris, I want to get rich right now.
Don't we all, Stu? Don't we all? However, it's not the way that it works, ladies and gentlemen. It's not the way that it works, right? I'll probably put out some of the stuff. April is Financial Literacy Month. So I'm going to talk a lot of this type of stuff, financial literacy, financial education, right? Just talking about things. And I'm going to hit different demographics and psychographics of people, because everyone knows, like everybody has a different issue with money. Everybody's in a different place. As a financial professional, I get a chance to help a baby boomer. Like, I just had, a potential client that's in their mid 60s, that's in that retirement red zone. Like they're done. They're like, no, we're packing this thing up. What do we got to do to wrap this thing together and sail off in the sunset? Let's look at the numbers. Let's play it. So I'm working with them. They have their own issues. They're trying to get money out of the market. The market's too volatile. People that are trying to retire in the next 3 to 5 years, it's too volatile. Like they don't want it. So they're like, all right, how do I move it? But then you come over to a millennial, all we're thinking about is passive income, right? All we're thinking about is how do I grow it? How do I get there? We talk to some Gen Zers, they want to get rich tomorrow because they see it, because they're on Twitch, because they see it on social, because they see that money can come, because we just had an NFT boom, because we just had, right? Because one of their cousins did kill it in crypto. So they actually believe that like, this is possible. I can get rich overnight, because many of them might have an actual example of somebody that did. So now that's going to be their belief, is that, hey, I could do this. If I hit the one thing and make the one investment and do the one thing and know that, boom, I could go. But that's not always how it works either. So we got to get information and education to people so that they understand how to navigate their personal financial life. Everybody's financial life is different. To wrap up this foundation, so we can get back, it's cash flow, short-term savings, emergency fund, debt management. I throw in the piece for insurance, not just life insurance, but like disability, long-term care, living benefit. Actually, if people want to be very serious about it, and I'm glad, right, Kabi is here, the number one cause for financial ruin in this country is a medical diagnosis. It's the number one cause. You get hit with that cancer, you get hit with that whatever. If all of a sudden you can't work and you have medical bills, financial ruin, game over. And again, this is the game of building wealth. So we could talk investments all day long. You don't got a proper something covering you in case you get cancer, in case you can't work, in case like your foundation isn't strong. You're one move away, one doctor visit away from it just all going away. Hence why we're doing this for all of you that are listening, so that's not us, right? That's not anyone that listens, because we're going to make sure your health is good. Because again, that's how you get to the good life. You have to focus on all of these things. You happen to just be talking about money, but that's important. But for those people that aren't paying attention to that side, well, financially, make sure you have some insurance type coverage, life, disability, long-term care, something in place. Last thing for foundational is the long-term. It's the retirement nest egg. Okay, that's important. That's a 15-year plus, 10-year plus, something that you are putting away consistently and gaining compound interest from. That is your $200 to $1,500 a month. That's your long term. That's a foundation, a financial foundation. If we get back to the investing part, short term, long term, and then it's midterm. So if you don't have short term rolling, you don't have 3 to 6 months or 6 to 12 months if you're good and you're not close and you're not properly funding something that's gaining you compound interest consistently right? Because compound interest is what will out earn you over time. It's just a time thing. You have to keep doing it. You start early and stay consistent. That will out earn you. So if you have both of those things set, then we can start having a midterm investing conversation where we can start looking at vehicles that could bring something like passive income. But it's not until we have those things in place that we can then start actually using our capital to put it in the midterm investment. Did that make sense? Did that make sense, guys? Because I explain that to a lot of people, and sometimes they don't get it. They'll still be like, oh, okay, I hear you. And they'll still go put some money in crypto tomorrow. Like they'll still do it. And like, I get it. Like it's attractive and it's an investment. I get it. But long-term, you're just gambling because you have no foundation. As soon as the economy flips over, seriously, like we don't know what's happening with the war and all the stuff. But as soon as it happens, like people aren't going to be in a good spot. I'm going to talk about a midterm investment today of real estate because that's what a lot of people know. A lot of horror stories. Other side of it also is 10 million, foreclosures are about to go up, right? People aren't in the best financial position as people think. Like, foreclosures are about to come down the pike. Biden pushed it off a bit, but it's coming. Why? Because people aren't financially prepared for what's coming up. They just want to talk passive income. It's the least of your worries right now for most people. But we got to start talking about foundation. So what do you guys got from that? Did that answer kind of where we were going with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's worthwhile to set that foundation before we move on and talk, because like you said, we have a tendency to skip steps as humans.
That's it. It's very true.
You mentioned the element of gambling. I think when individuals are, in previous episodes, you've always talked about how money is such an emotional thing. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that emotion overrides some of these folks who, like, you hear Chris's plan, you hear the fundamentals, like you hear what you should be doing and why it's the safest way to accumulate wealth over time. But there's so many emotions that get in the way. And I think one thing you can do to combat your emotions, staying hydrated.
That was the juice, y'all. That was the juice. I heard that point about the medical diagnosis. I was like, listen, you want to get rich, get healthy first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, he's got a point, especially because we were just talking about an example of somebody that unfortunately got kidney stones, and that's expensive. That's an ER visit, all kinds of stuff. And here we are. I thought you heard that earlier. And hydration is key.
Easily avoided.
Agreed.
Easily.
Agreed. So instead, that's a big financial expense. But long story short, you combat some of this emotional nature with logic. What's some logic that I think a lot of people can pay attention to? How many decades have people been trying to gamble with the lottery only to come out with nothing? Just a whole lot of spent money on lottery tickets. Like, when you hear about people making it in crypto or all these other types of things overnight, you have to recognize that they're like 1 out of 1 million, 1 out of 10 million. It's very, very rare. And just please, just look at some statistics over all the people that are doing it and just how few actually become successes overnight, because that's not a successful model. That's a 1 in a million chance.
That's right. Or right, like that, right, this isn't their first rodeo. You think they hit it big on this, but they've been trying everything and wasted so much money over the past 5-10 years that, like, it's just made up for what they lost, right? But we don't know those things. We only see the winners of the lottery. We only see the high score at the casino, right?
Yeah.
The big payout. We don't see all the other stuff. It's why we have to expose it. It's why we want to talk about it, because you have to have an awareness of actually, what you're doing with your money, but also what's happening around you with money in order for you to get to the place you want to be. You have to have an awareness. You have to know it, that it's, lottery. I used to tell people lottery is a tax on the poor. Lottery is, because where does all the money go? To the government. The state, it's the state lottery, right? I live in Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania state lottery. So every time you give them $1 and you don't win, Pennsylvania state got that money. The people that play the lottery are people that are poor typically. So the lottery is a tax on the poor. They just don't know that. They think they could hit it big. It's gambling.
1,000%.
It's so
1,000%.
sad.
Now, okay, so now you've got your foundation in place, 101 complete. Let's go to the midterm.
There we go. So you've heard me talk about this before, but midterm investments are normally going to be your 2 to 10 year investment. Not your long term, not your 401k, not your IRA, not your SEP IRA, not your cash value insurance, not sitting in the bank, not in a money market account or a CD. 2 to 10 year investment, typically coming across one of the asset classes. We'll go over it again, right? Asset classes, typically 5 of them, maybe a 6th one if cryptocurrency does its thing, whatever that is. You got cash, you got equities, which is ownership of a business, You got fixed income, which is loaning out money. You got real estate, ownership of property or land. And then you got commodities, gold, oil, silver, that type of stuff, chickens, oranges, that stuff, right? Listen, there's a market for everything.
Of course, me and Marshawn Lynch been counting our chickens for a long time now.
Marshawn's in the like he for real is in that game though, isn't he? Like, doesn't he do something with like chickens?
I'm not quite sure if he does actual chickens or not, but I just know he does straight cash in a club out in Oakland that is straight fire.
Got you. Well, anyways,
maybe it's Seahawks.
He in the weed business.
Yeah, I know that. I know that for sure. And again, right? These talk about the cannabis industry, right? These are all midterm type of investments. By the way, the two that I always hone in on, real estate and equities. You can get to the fixed income side, meaning when you loan out money, when you lend out money, you want to become a hard money lender, you need capital to do that. But in general, you could actually get percentage points just by loaning out your money. And then the commodity side also, right? Most middle income people, we're not tapped into the commodities market. We know gas prices went up, but you've never looked at really how to purchase oil, how to purchase crude oil. Like you don't really know anything about that side of things. And that's the commodity side. Tons of money in it. Could be might know. Maybe could be knows.
I do love me some crude.
Right?
Shout out to the OGs that put me on though.
They got to be OGs. They have to be, because most people don't get into that side. Most people literally think they're just going to either invest in the stock market or invest in real estate. That's what most people think, right? Those are like the limited options. What was that? Is that silver?
Was that a condom? What was that?
Pause.
You invested in Trojan?
Two individuals here, right? Two totally states of mind. Two totally states of life. One man says silver.
I like investing in my health. Okay.
Oh man, that's hilarious. No, brother, that is silver, baby. That is silver.
For the record, I knew it wasn't that.
American Eagle, silver.
Is it? Here we go. Right, and Kabi, we talked about this on another episode like a couple of weeks ago, that like there's a difference in like holding on to a commodity like gold and silver and investing in, right, commodities as an asset class, like investing in an oil well or investing in a gold mine, or right, like those become a different type of investment inside the asset class. Holding on to the commodity, the gold, the silver, those things, right? Those things had stores of value, right? Like they hold value. But you want to get, that's why I said this is kind of like the 303 side. You really want to get into commodities. You really have to get around an OG. You got to get around someone that's in the industry. You got to get around somebody that knows what's going on that commodity side. But typically, equities and real estate. Equities and real estate are those passive, or I don't want to say passive. Those are the midterm investments. The 2 to 10 year investments that can literally build your wealth. They can that's what a midterm investment is there to do. When I break it down for some people, midterm investments are just about having a fun fund, right? Like I say, you want to travel, you want to get an RV, you want to do something. All right, fine. You're just kind of saving and investing to get to a place in like 5 years where you can purchase something. That's fine. The other side of midterm investments for people that are serious, they want to build wealth. You do it in your midterms. You do it in the 2 to 10 year. You need a specialized knowledge. You need to understand something about real estate. You need to understand something about business or equities. You need to have a deeper knowledge than what the average person would have if you want to go invest in those things. So let's just stick with real estate and stick with equities, okay? Real estate, if that is a midterm investment, it could be long. I was having this conversation with somebody. They were like, no, Chris, it could be long. I was like, well, there are some circumstances. Yeah. You're buying an apartment building. You're buying something that's 30 years out. You know you're keeping that thing. Well, then sure, that's a little bit of a more of a long-term play for, cash flow. It's great. Midterm 2 to 10 years means you're evaluating this every few years because you're just trying to increase your wealth, right? You're trying to increase that net worth. So normally takes a few years. If we talk real estate, you got to get some specialized knowledge around what sector of real estate you would like to invest in, right? Real estate's very broad. But do you have education? Do you have knowledge on exactly what part of real estate you want to invest in? Are you a buy and hold type? Are you a fix and flip type? Do you want to go commercial? Do you want to go in the city that you live in? Do you choose to do land? Do you want to go after tax liens? Do you want to go after foreclosures and short sales? Do you prefer to buy apartments? Do you prefer to, right, buy strip mall? Like, you have to get educated about what's out there. And again, this is not gambling, this is education, because you should have your long term and your short term already running, right? So there's no pressure in these.
And Chris, if I may, on real estate here a little bit,
Yeah.
you know, I think you're totally right in that it's midterm, and I think the other, whoever was saying long term, I also completely agree as well. It's based on a number of factors, really, like how are you holding it, how are you purchasing it, and what are your expectations. And I think a lot of people get confused in real estate. In my opinion, most of the time, real estate, you know, well, let me start here. I think in the medium term, it's even more important that you have specialized knowledge, or that you really know what you're doing, because you can get burned in the medium term. Long term, based on what I have in my head here, real estate, at least in the United States, based on what I know, is a little less riskier than midterm, right? Midterm, you can, I mean, it's not that liquid, right? I mean, you still have to go through a process to liquid to what is the term? It's not
Get your equity.
liquefied.
Yeah, liquefy, or to liquidate.
Liquidate. That's the word.
Or to get your equity out.
Liquidate it, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, if you're looking, that's where people get into the flipping. That's where people get into wholesaling. That's where people get into fix and flips and things of that nature. Obviously, that requires a good amount of knowledge.
The Burr method.
Bird method, right? BRRR. I think 3 R's, right?
I think it's 3
buy,
or 4.
Buy, renovate, refinance, or buy, remodel,
rehab.
Rehab.
I just looked it up.
And the last one is refinance.
Rent.
What is the middle?
Rent.
Refinance.
Okay, it's rent refi, right?
And repeat.
And repeat. So there's a 4th R. There we go.
Is there 4 R's?
Yeah.
Yep. According to the internet. That's all I got.
Yeah, cool. Fair enough. Yeah.
There you go.
Biggerpockets.com if you want to check that out. I'm sure they dive quite a bit into that. Then you got you know, this with the midterm side, 2 areas that I have quite a bit of interest in. What I'm probably going to be attacking, not probably will be attacking, is I have an expertise in probate, and it's something that I worked with a man on for, or one of my broker on for a long time. And it's something that can serve both short and long, I mean, medium and long, in that you have an ever green pool of individuals you could help. And as a result, you do mutually beneficial deals. Another area that's of interest to me is land flips, or land in general, moving forward. So if you're ever interested in that stuff, or you're doing that and I can learn something from you, please let me know, because that's definitely, I'm very interested in those 2 areas in particular. Long term, from me, multifamily first, and then even longer term would be commercial, because I think commercial is getting smacked in the next decade or 2. I ain't touching that. But as soon as everything turns around, because everything is cyclical, I'm very interested in touching that stuff. So, you know, that's just honestly, that's really just me liking to talk about that stuff, less any sort of advice, obviously. But those would be my examples of medium term real estate, long term real estate. I don't touch things like REITs. I don't like them. I don't touch things like, well, I'm in a condo now, but
REITs are technically equities.
Okay, well, okay, cool. I don't like them.
I'm not a big fan either, but technically, and for people that don't know, it's a real estate investment trust. That's what it is. Basically, instead of you investing in the physical property. You're investing in the company that owns the properties, or the pool of companies that own the properties. And so through that, you're getting a share basically. But
Where would you put like funds,
equities.
equities? Okay.
Hmm?
I'm shaky on funds moving forward, just because I see something similar in the sense of like everybody feels like, oh wait, everybody can get a loan, right? Now I feel like everybody feels like real estate is the way to go and it's the way to hide some money or the way to flee to. So anybody with a fund is getting money. Like it's so easy to raise money now with a fund. And I'm not quite sure all of these people actually know what they're doing. In the end of the day, right?
They don't.
God bless
They
you,
don't.
Grant Cardone, but I mean, come on, man.
That man is making such an impact in my city right now.
Oh, I bet.
He has raised property values in some instances anywhere from 150% to 200 in 6 months. Literally like driving out very wealthy upper 20s, lower 30s individuals for who even knows who can afford that. I don't know. I'm not going to spend 90% of my paycheck on rent, but it's pretty interesting. You know, when it comes to the real estate piece, I've always shied away from from flipping, etc. I think if I found the right group of guys, maybe I would do it. I mean, I literally have a construction background. I understand how that stuff works. I just love long-term real estate, man. It's such a beautiful little nest egg. Specifically, since we've kind of touched on some things that we have experience in, for me with real estate, it's long-term condos and just renting them out. If you can increase your rent faster than they increase the condo fees, you're good. But
Right.
that's a pretty big if. You got to know what you're doing on that one. And I definitely did not at first, which means it took about 5 years for this thing to become even. I can only wait for the next 5 years when it's highly profitable.
Yeah. And let's not forget, right? I mentioned this earlier. I'll play negative Nancy for
I'm
a
gonna go
second.
negative Nancy
Hit
real
it.
quick.
There we
Who's
go.
gonna be positive Paula?
Well, right now I'm playing negative Nancy, right? Real estate's, especially long term, there's so many ups and downs and so many things that could go wrong. I told you guys about a story of a lady that had, the nightmare tenants, right? The tenants that come in, they don't pay, or they pay for 2 months and they stop paying. And many cities, and I can't really say many, but I know there's a large percentage of them that they lean towards the tenant over the landlord, meaning the laws favor the tenants over the landlord. Now, it's different all
Sure.
across the country, right? It's different in every jurisdiction, every city, every state's a little bit different, right? Philadelphia, for sure, favors the tenant over the landlord.
Well, San Francisco, I don't think there's a better example than
It's
SF.
disgusting. I hate
There we
it.
go, right?
I
So, like,
cannot stand that idea.
so as soon as like they're protecting renter, I mean, look at guys what we just went through with the renters protection and them not having to pay money to landlords for a year.
Guys, don't forget landlords. You're looking at one, okay? Like we don't actually have like millions and millions of dollars. You guys make us out to be these overlords. Like some of us actually had to pay a mortgage. So that idea, I can't stand it. It is so much easier for you to move to a less expensive property, for me to replace you, than for me to undo my mortgage.
Yeah.
Yet all the risk in those situations is on me. So
So again, like we said, it could be a great long-term nest egg. However, it's not going to come with like smooth, I just set it and forget it. Passive income, right? Just super
Absolutely
easy.
true.
First 2 years were a battle.
Absolutely true. And I think this is where the knowledge comes into play, and we can't underestimate that. You know what I mean? But every one of these asset classes we're talking about has risk that requires knowledge for you to take on. And if you got to pick which risk applies to you, right? Because there's lots of ways to mitigate that tenant risk, right? It's making sure you get the proper legal paperwork before you even sign things into place, right?
Amen.
You get the right tenant, right? You didn't have to bring that tenant in if you didn't do a proper check on them, right? You could get, so there's a lot of different things you could put into play, and this is where the knowledge and the comes into play. The what makes it not passive at first, right? But as you mitigate risk, as you mitigate, you don't have just one door, right? It's like owning one stock, right? Why would you do that? You don't have one door. You start to get 10 doors, 20 doors, 30 doors, 40 doors, and you mitigate risk that way. In addition to other ways of mitigating risk, that's when you can talk about it being, that's when you can talk about the positive side of real estate. So yeah, I totally agree with you. There's a lot of risks that should be made clear, because there's a lot of people out there today that are making it seem like, oh, it ain't nothing. You get you a door, you get you 2 doors, and you and your family eating, you out in the boat in Jamaica, and good Lord, the rent coming in, right? So it's not like that. It's not like that, right? Same thing for the midterm. You guys chime in. I'd love to know. But for me, what I like is definitely real estate, but certain type of real estate that I have experience with. Not just all different types of real estate, but certain type of real estate I've experienced in, and
makes sense.
Large cap dividend paying stock, like specifically ETFs, index, right? Pop a little in there, see where it goes. Those are the things I feel more comfortable with, right? And honestly, that's probably it for me.
And it's fine.
And equities and my own business,
right?
My own business.
But it shows because you have knowledge in those areas. That's why you feel comfortable with it, so you can put money there, and you'll sleep well at night knowing that you put money in the right in the places that were right for you. That's where the specialized knowledge comes in, guys. We can't skip over this step. We hear a lot of things, but do you take the time to learn about it?
Nah,
not at all. Not at all. And I just recommend it because
y'all can learn about it right here every Wednesday.
Learn about it here. We'll give you resources. There's so many resources. Like, man, this could probably be a different conversation, guys, where we could talk about like how people don't know how to learn because of school, right? School taught us how to think.
Clip that, Ash. That's a different episode.
Clip that.
Different episode. We need that.
God, we could spend so much on that.
But we could, but it's just true. Like, people don't know how to learn with outside of the institution of school, outside of like that building. They forget how to like actually take 10 hours and study something and sit at home and read the book. Just because you don't have a test coming up, your test is life. It's your bank account.
Bars.
Right? That's the test. So how much you studying for it? That's what the specialized knowledge is for you to be able to get to passive income, right? Go full circle back to this conversation of passive income, right? And distracted. We're wrapping this thing up. I don't know if this guy can hold his fluids.
Listen, guys, I gotta be honest with you. We don't hide things on this show here. I'm on a solid food vacation juice feast, and the juice is running.
Listen,
I hope you learned a lot from this show, but we got to go.
we're gonna wrap this thing up right now. Stu, I don't know if you have it. If you could take us out, because I don't know if Kabi is in a place to be able.
Oh, I got you.
Wait,
you got it.
He's ready then.
Ladies and gentlemen, we love you. We love you. You ain't got to go, but you got to get out of here. That is it for us today. And if you guys like what you heard, make sure you subscribe. Smash that like button. Tune in next Monday or Wednesday if you're live with us on Instagram, and share this episode with somebody that's climbing the ranks. And they may or may not like it. That's okay. All press is good press. And until next time, keep living the good life. We out of here, baby.
Hit that bathroom, bro. We're out.
Welcome to the good life.